Hello there. Did you know that you can travel back in time, not with the DeLorean, but you can travel back in time from the comfort of your own living room? Yes, that's right. In neurolinguistic programming, we actually manipulate the very strands of time and space within our perception of our reality. Now, this is something that I absolutely love in my NLP training and in my therapy sessions with clients, is helping people to see that they're not stuck with some sort of past experience that has to keep being reactivated with every trigger that's out in their external world. There's this concept called timeline therapy, which all NLP practitioners are well aware of. It's probably one of the features when people hear NLP, they recall timeline therapy. But what is it? Well, in this little video, I'm going to capture some of the main elements and factors that make up timeline therapy and why it kind of happens to work pretty well. Now, firstly, in our mind, we do not know the difference between something that is imagined in the mind's eye, just using our beautiful imagination, and something that is actually in the manifest world, in the physical reality. Our mind does not discriminate between these two realities, in the mind or in the physical world. So sports people, musicians, people honing in and practicing a skill will be able to rehearse within their mind's eye carefully, diligently, with regularity, and they will find that their skill has improved in the external world for them. So you can practice piano in your mind, you can learn an instrument, you can practice a golf swing, you can practice, sports professionals use this technique. There are many sports professionals who have a dedicated NLP coach in their lives because this is very effective. And we do understand with neuroscience that we can recreate pathways to create new habits, new behaviors in our lives, to become more automated. And so that's why people who are mastering something in their life will do it repetitively in their mind's eye, because over time it becomes a new neural wiring. It becomes a new habit, a new way of being, if you like. It changes our personality. Our personality is simply a combination of all of our neural wiring, our programming. So timeline therapy is this understanding that we are experiencing this moment and the past and the future all at the same time. Now, if we look at science, at quantum science, we understand that this is actually being shown to be true, that there is no such thing as the past or the future. All there is now, and everything that's happened in our experience before and everything that will happen in the future is all happening now, in the now moment. It's hard for us to wrap our minds around, but the fact of the matter is we know that we can manipulate time and space to change our experience of reality. This is essentially one of the key skills that we learn when we want to change our trajectory. When we do business coaching or any kind of life coaching, we do these kind of planning strategies. We see what didn't go wrong, what did go wrong or didn't work out the way we would like in our past and how that's led us to where we are now. And we see where we would like to go in the future. And we hone in on a trajectory that will take us there. Through steps and goals, strategies and plans, we will eventually make it to that point in our future. Now, if you are open to the idea of different theories of our existence, then there is a strong argument for the multiverse theory, and that is that there are multiple simultaneous realities that we are experiencing in this now moment. So we are experiencing every possible trajectory that we could experience in unlimited number in this very now moment. within other paradigms, with other levels of perception. So we can only obviously work with this one timeline at this moment in this human body with this human mind. And so that's what we work with in timeline therapy. So as you can see above my head, I've got a typical timeline. This is how we understand linear time. We have the past and we have the future. And of course, we have right now. And this is where we always are. Now, the past is a construct because it is an illusion. It does not exist now. Now, that forms memories and experiences that we hold in our mind. And of course, something that can remind us or trigger us about some sort of past event or experience creates a reactivation of a memory. But the thing is, neuroscience has shown that memories, at least 60% of our memories are deletions, are distortions, are generalizations of what actually happened. And so we activate our memories consistently by feelings. Anything that triggers a certain feeling will remind us of that experience when we first felt that feeling. Now, obviously, most timeline work and timeline therapy is for disempowering memories, memories that bring up uncomfortable feelings that put us at effect in our lives so that we feel reactionary and out of control. And so that might be, for an example, you were bitten by a dog when you were a little kid. And so whenever you remember and you were triggered by a memory very easily by seeing a dog in real life now as an adult, and that brings up the feeling, the memory of that feeling of when that first traumatic experience happened for you. But of course, all of this is just in the mind now. It's not real. The memory of being bitten by that dog when you were little is an illusion now because it doesn't actually exist except for in the mind. Now, similar with our future, a lot of us live in the state of anxiety. It's very typical for, especially for our Western culture, this idea that we have to produce, achieve, create, and do things for some future satisfaction or fulfillment or achievement, which we never ever get to because the future is not real. The future does not exist. It's a fantasy all in the mind. So all that is real is right now. Okay, so we understand these basic concepts in NLP. So what we can do is we can take you back in time to the first memory of a bad feeling, and we can change the factors that made up that experience so that you are no longer living that reactionary feeling when you are triggered by something that reminds you to reactivate that memory. That's a tongue twister. So how do we travel back in time, you may ask? Well, firstly, we need to be able to elicit a timeline. For everybody, their timeline will be different. The orientation, the direction of their timeline will be different. But essentially, for a lot of people, the future is going to be directly in front of them if it was to be a concept. And so spatially, we become aware of this idea that the future is somewhere over that way. And similarly, with the past, the orientation of most people's past timeline is behind them. The past is behind them, so that you can spatially imagine a timeline that stretches from where you are right here in this now moment all the way back behind you to when you first remember being alive in this human body. Now, we do, of course, do timeline therapy for being in the womb or beyond, before you were born, in past reincarnations. So when we do timeline therapy, we speak to your subconscious mind to locate that first memory. So this is not something that you need to be trying to control through the process of timeline therapy. There is nothing for you to actively be doing with your prefrontal cortex. There's no cognitively disseminating the process. It's actually important that your conscious mind takes a back seat and has a rest during the process. And this is because at least 95% of our mind and what creates our habits and our fears and our reactions and our emotions is subconscious. And so when we're doing timeline therapy, we're actually dealing with the subconscious mind. And this is essentially the whole area we focus on in NLP, is the subconscious mind, because this is really the operating system of our thoughts, words, and deeds in this experience. And so to enable you to put your mind to rest while we go into the subconscious mind means that we often will put you into a hypnotic brainwave state. So that will be a theta brainwave state, usually very, very relaxed, starting to become unaware of your body, just totally in a trance. Now, we do that, of course, so that you don't block any kind of positive intervention, so that you can totally go along with the voice of the hypnotist and allow them to take you back to that first memory without blocking it through your lens of perception. And I've talked about lenses of perception in another video, but we all have a unique lens of perception which forms our view of the world. It could be a horror story or a love story or anything in between. But this perception, this lens, will try and block new information. Any kind of threat to the ego will be blocked. And that's why we put you into a hypnotic brainwave state. So you aren't actively blocking any kind of empowerment and intervention towards your healing, growth, and transformation. So once we've elicited your timeline and you know which direction it is, where the past and the future is, we then can put you into a hypnotic brainwave state, put you into a state of hypnosis, and we ask you to travel back in time, and we will guide you through that process, and we'll find that a first memory, that first event, as best we can, and we will bring to the table, to that event, all of the learning, wisdom, and resources that you have now as an adult. Because the thing we didn't have when we were children, when we have most of these first traumatic experiences and events that cause these memories and suffering for us, the thing we didn't have in those positions when we're children is the ability to cognize, to strategically understand what information we are disseminating. We are not able to pick up nuances or sarcasm or any kind of divergent thinking, multiple possibility and options for everything we hear. When we're children, we simply receive and download the information in our environment from our parents, our teachers, our friends, the media, and we soak that up like a sponge, and we don't question it because this is not something that's developed in our brain yet. So everything just goes straight in, it crystallizes by about the age of 7, and we create our program that we see the world through, this lens we see the world through. So we are putting you into hypnosis so that you are not going to block that process of going in and questioning the programming, but we are going to take your current wisdom, resources, and learning that you have as an adult, being able to look back and see with perspective that this memory and the way it activates a negative or disempowering feeling is no longer helping you. You do not need to survive as if your life is under threat anymore. And this is what we do when we're children. We shut down because we feel threatened. And most of us have had some sort of pre-developmental trauma where we have shut down and we have no longer allowed that part of ourselves to be alive and continue to grow and transform. That part of ourselves has fractured, and that part of ourselves is injured, and it's not operating. And so this is why we can go in with the current resources and wisdom and understanding from an adult's perspective. We can go in and go back to that first memory, and we can acknowledge the suffering that that child experienced because they didn't understand what was happening, and that it wasn't as threatening as they thought it would be. So we can give those resources back to our inner child, to the child that first experienced that memory. And we can heal in that moment all the misgivings and misunderstandings and confusion that was created in that moment and that formed that memory that you hold on to today and feel triggered by. And so we can do amazing healing work in this process of timeline travel, traveling back and changing the memory. And it's very powerful. I've seen a lot of amazing results in my own life and the life of my students, peers, colleagues, and clients. And so I would highly recommend looking into this. Now, this is also, for me, integrated into the shadow work I do with my clients. And shadow work is essentially timeline therapy, but it is a little bit more of an emphasis on acknowledging the inner child that felt that feeling for the first time. And so we do a lot more expression of those emotions that have been held and blocked up all this time and repressed as we become adults and still suffer from those triggers. So shadow work is amazing. It is shedding light, illuminating the shadows that were never given the light of day to be validated or acknowledged. And so all of this is highly, highly powerful, transformative healing work that we can do for ourselves. And so if you haven't looked into it and it's something that strikes you as potentially good for you, for your circumstances and situations, then I would recommend looking into it. And of course, I offer a free 1-hour virtual session if you would like to inquire around that in your own life with me. So I would be honored if you felt to book with me, and we can explore that. So I hope this has been enlightening and shown you a little bit more about how powerful NLP can be in your life and how it is something that we want to integrate into healing while on a spiritual journey. It's not all about total surrender. There is, when we surrender, we can be shown the work that we still need to do while we're in this physical body. Rather than spiritual bypassing, we actually face this head on with the courage to be able to heal the aspects of us that we've run away from our whole lives. And so you no longer need to be triggered by memories. You no longer need to be triggered by experiences that were disempowering for you when you were a kid or even older. We can work on all of those things. And what ends up happening is you change the trajectory of where you were headed in that moment. And so when we go back in time and we change a memory and an experience, we actually create a completely new trajectory in your life. And altering that one event in time will alter every single subsequent event that was related to that first memory. And so let's say you were bitten by a dog when you were a child, and you go back and heal that experience with your adult learning, wisdom, and understanding. And we change that experience and that memory, and you're no longer triggered by that. Every subsequent time in your life when you were activated in the past by that disempowering and negative experience will be transformed. So you can apply this to any experience that was disempowering once upon a time, and how that will have relationships is a big one. Relationships, if you've had a struggle and are triggered by a pattern of type of relationships because of a memory when you were a kid, then we can go back, we can change that memory, we can bring in learning and resources and wisdom to that memory, and we can absolutely change every subsequent memory that was related to that first pain, that first experience of a negative relationship. And of course, that's going to change your relationships in your life. And this is definitely more than just practical psychological work that we're doing. This is holistic. We are changing the energy in our lives. We are changing the flow in our lives. We are getting rid of blocks in our lives. We're getting rid of resistance. in our lives. And we are creating whole new manifested realities in our timeline. And so it's really, really interesting. It's good stuff. So if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share. And I will see you soon. Have a beautiful day. See ya. Bye.